Hey there, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement worldwide and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, where I take a concept, a strategy, something that we utilize in autism fitness programming, and bring it to you in a meaningful, workable way. And in this edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, I'm going to be sharing a video of one of my athletes with you. This is something that has been requested and something that I actually love to do. And if there's a video of one of your autism or neurodivergent athletes that you'd like me to review, send it on over to me. Of course, get permission to share it first, and then send it on over to me, and I'd be happy to analyze it, break it down from the perspective of the PAC profile, physical, adaptive, and cognitive, in a future video. And of course, before we get started, like and subscribe, and of course share these videos with someone for whom you might make a difference, someone who's working in a school, someone who's working in a clinic, someone who's working in an organization that is serving the autism and neurodivergent population in some capacity and may want to start or optimize their fitness or adapted PE program. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can I do it? Will I be able to do it? There we go. Okay, cool. So we're going to start with this athlete here, and if I can start the video, what we're going to be looking at is this squat pattern. Now that's a great face to start out with. When we look at the squat pattern, so the squat is our fundamental low body strengthening exercises. You essentially have two main lower body strengthening patterns. You have a squat and you have a hinge. We use the squat primarily because the hinge requires a postural consideration, and that is maintaining neutral or relatively neutral spinal position. The challenge with neutral spine, it is something that is very difficult to teach even when we are highly competent and capable coaches. It is something that requires a very good kinesthetic awareness or sense of where the body is. And for many, if not most, of our autism and neurodivergent life skill athletes, this is a particular challenge, so much so that we often preclude introducing or hold off on introducing the hinge pattern, i.e. a deadlift or picking up a heavy object off the floor, until we've enabled the athlete to develop a better sense of their body performing a movement and increase some strength in the posterior chain, particularly in the lower body. Definitely more trunk stability, spinal stability as well. So it's something that over time we can introduce. So I'm going to go ahead and share this video here. So we notice that our athlete is talking a little bit. So here I'm going to pause the video first. All right. So what we see here with our athlete is we notice that there is some, and he's having a great time, but he is talkative. So during the set, what we want is to maintain appropriate tempo through the exercise. So squat and then come back up. So we want to aim for that 2 or 3 second eccentric or lowering phase, and then a nice smooth concentric or raising or elevation phase here. When we have a more talkative athlete or an athlete who's getting dysregulated, what starts to happen is the tempo of the exercise might be a little bit off. So it decreases the effectiveness of the exercise. Now we have to maintain a balance between the athlete being motivated and also keeping on task with maintaining the appropriate tempo of that exercise. So of course this is something that we focus on in the Autism Fitness Certification and in our PAC profile programming. I can't believe I actually got that sentence out. In order to understand what we need to prioritize, there's another P word, for each athlete at any given moment. So you can notice that this athlete is really good. He's really great on most of his reps. So you can see the feet are set and rooted. He's got a good descent or eccentric motion. And you notice the knees are not really caving in. The knees are in a really good position as well. And this guy is squatting below parallel as well, what we call standard performance. Why do we call that standard? Because when we have an athlete who is able to control the motion through a full range, like going below parallel, because that is going to enact or engage a muscular contraction as much as possible from the hamstrings, the glutes, the largest muscles that are involved in the mechanics of that posterior chain. What that's going to do is strengthen in all of the marvelous ways that this squat can strengthen. And you notice that I have the box here because for many of our autism and neurodivergent athletes, they need a modified variation of this exercise, whether it is slightly below parallel, at parallel, or even sometimes above parallel. Because if we have an athlete who's just crashing down, so if they're just kind of flopping down to the box, then we're not getting as much or much of any muscular contraction, so the exercise is not going to be effective. This is the exact reason why we never have our athletes squat to a stability ball, for example, or something that is going to have some bounce back, because then the athlete no longer has to really contract those muscles. They can just use the momentum of bouncing off the ball in order to squat. And we don't necessarily want to use a chair, because a chair has a fixed height, whereas something like the box, and you can see that I've rigged up this this box on the floor and then stacked some plates and then an ab mat on top of it. What's great about this is I can reduce or increase the amount of plates that I have on here, or use a taller box in order to satisfy the current level of ability of that athlete. So in our programming, we have our standard. So if the athlete is able to do 3 sets of 10 below parallel with control of this exercise, awesome. Then we can start adding weight. But if the athlete cannot meet standard yet because of their physiological capabilities, because they don't yet have the strength, they don't yet have the motor patterning, then we would modify the exercise for them using a taller platform or taller box, or even sometimes we use a band for upper body trunk support. In this athlete's case, even though some of those reps are a little bit faster, the majority of the repetitions that he's doing right now are great. We can keep him at standard, at below parallel here. And I believe for him right now, there's also his warm-up set. So what you're seeing is his body weight squat as a warm-up before we load him up with a 6-pound sandbell. But the only reason that I can load him up with that sandbell is he's already capable of controlling the movement with his own body weight for those prescribed number of sets, which is 3, and total repetitions, which are 10. Now, it doesn't mean that an athlete who is not yet capable of doing this exercise to standard is not going to derive some benefit from it, but we can't just start shoehorning in weight and more of a challenge for the exercise, because it's just going to do nothing for the athlete. It's not going to benefit them. So you look at this last rep, boom, that is as near perfect as you can get here. And I'll come back just for a second. I want to show one little hitch. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to be super nitpicky for a second. You see that little bit of forward lean here. This is a little bit nitpicky with this particular athlete, but it's definitely something that we want to look for and address. If an athlete is doing every single rep just with that forward fold, it usually means that they need some type of upper body support with a band. One repetition that's a little bit off is fine. The athlete can be corrected via prompt or cue, or sometimes athletes will self-correct as well. So this is a great example of an athlete who is meeting standard for that squat. And all of these things, the larger point is that all of these things matter. How we set the athlete up, the tempo of the movement, the appropriate volume, meaning sets and repetitions, and their technique. All of these things are really important, and it doesn't mean that it's a completely lost cause or anywhere close to it if your athlete or athletes cannot yet meet standard on any of these exercises. It is an extremely common occurrence, and one of the reasons why we focus so intently on having modified variations of our exercises in the Autism Fitness curriculum. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Again, I am happy to review any videos that you have of your athletes and break it down from a physical, adaptive, and cognitive standpoint. In this case, we didn't address the adaptive and the cognitive that much because the athlete is clearly aware of how to perform the exercise and what the expectations are. Highly motivated here. You notice a little nuance when he gets a little more talkative, that the technique breaks down a little bit, and that is something that we really hone in on during our Expert Pro course, which of course follows our Pro certification. So I'd love to know if this is helpful for you. Leave that in the comments below. And if you're ready to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro anywhere in the world, you can go to autismfitness.com, download the course syllabus, learn more. You can even contact me if you want to know if the course is right for you. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement worldwide. Thank you very much for watching Tuesday Training.